Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. After, I think it was 2 or 3 videos ago, I was talking about like my go-to glowy, dewy base routine, and I got a lot of people requesting it, so it's super simple, and that's what we're going to be doing today. My super simple, glowy, dewy, hydrated base routine, and it's super easy and not that difficult at all, and we're going to go through all of that today. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching, and don't forget to subscribe because I upload every other day, and that'll be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to go into a simple base routine for flawless skin, stay tuned. All right, so like I said in that video, the absolute biggest thing you could do is proper skin prep. So when I want to get like super glowy with that lit from within, I always start with a very glowy serum. I keep the Jlo Beauty, that Jlo Glow Serum on my makeup table for that very reason. I'm not going to say that I think this has massive like long-term skincare effects. I mean, it is hydrating based on the ingredients and it feels really nice. But I will say, on the days I use it as like a serum base underneath my makeup, everything just feels extra glowy. And then immediately over that, I layer my SPF. This is the Bloomeffects Tulip Dew Vitamins and Mineral Broad Spectrum SPF 50. The reason I love this so much is it is a mineral sunscreen. It has a little bit of a tint to it. You'll notice it's definitely not clear. That does sort of absorb into the skin, but it does just leave the skin with, like, you could see that glow already. So the combination of those two products as like the skincare base, followed by a super illuminating primer, really get us ready for the glowy base we're looking for. And the last piece of like pre-highlight illumination glow we do, this is the Rare Beauty Illuminating Primer. A little bit of this goes a very long way. I do like a pump and a half. Looks very highlighty when it's first applied, and I really concentrate that on, yeah, that's stunning, on the perimeters of the face. This isn't something like I really want in my T-zone. I'll take whatever's left on my fingers after I've put it on the cheek and forehead and just run it everywhere else just for that like smooth blurring effect. But I absolutely concentrate most of that on the cheeks. And right away, I already see this luminous glow coming through on my skin, so much more than I did before I put anything on. So then we go into like a super dewy like skin routine. I'm gonna grab the Beauty For Real MVP Tinted Moisturizer, and I'm gonna take that on this is an acrylic palette from DSMD, but you can use anything, the back of your hand if you'd like. Doesn't have to be necessarily an acrylic palette. And I definitely don't want a lot of this. My skin is pretty clear. I just want to add a little bit of coverage. So I took a tiny bit. I know that it looks a little bit too dark here. This shears out absolutely beautifully. So I'm going to kind of move that around so that it is on my sponge a little bit more spread out. And then we're going to just add that coverage right over where I want it by shearing it out on the back of the palette. Every time I pick it up, I'm getting like an area of my face worth. So instead of, when you dot it around your face and try to blend it in, that's going to put a lot of coverage in a few areas, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that like I'm picking up one amount at a time, and then the first one on one cheek, second one the other, third one the forehead, the last one the nose. And then right away, that's already given me a nice base of coverage. So I'm just going to take whatever's left on this palette, on the sponge, and I'm just going to start at the top of my head and work that down to the cheek, work that over the nose. By using a sponge, this is going to deposit what's there and then pick up what we don't need. And then with no extra product, I'm just going to work whatever is left in the sponge down the rest of my face, because I really need most of my coverage here, not everywhere else. And I probably could have gotten away with another half pump of coverage, but I actually like where this is, and I'll do the rest with concealer and powder. So again, we want to keep this illuminating. So I'm going to grab the Huda Beauty This is the Faux Filter Concealer. It is said to be a luminous matte finish, which is very contradictory, but if you've tried it, you get what that means. It's going to dry down to a long wear matte finish, but it does add a little bit of glow. So I'm going to do the basic areas that I always do, which is also where I want to both brighten and where I want a little bit of extra coverage. I like taking a tiny bit right under where I'm going to contour. Because I did not shave today and I still got like some remnants of facial hair that will be going away tomorrow because I'm already over it. I do like to put that right here because the beard line gives me a natural contour here. So by adding that little stripe of brightness, it just helps with like a pre-contour. So when I go in with that brightening, it sets that line. And then when I put the contour and bronzer on top, it just helps everything to look really sculpted. As I'm blending, I am making sure that I'm blending the areas where I need the coverage the least first. So like the forehead, I'm only doing because I want to brighten it. It's not that I need coverage there. Whereas the nose is where I tend to need the most coverage, and then the under eyes. So I'll end up blending it in that order, just to make sure that the product has a little bit of time to sit on my skin, which kind of helps it to build up a little bit more. And once that's all blended out, I switch to the bottom side of the sponge, which is where we had the foundation, or in this case, the tinted moisturizer. And I just like to blend where the concealer meets the tinted moisturizer, just so that everything seems a little bit more seamless. And again, this is with no powder. Now, I would in no way call this matte. It definitely has some luminosity to it, but it needs a little more life. So I'm going to grab, this is from Bubble. This is the Bounce Back Balancing Face Mist. And I'm going to do a thin layer of that on the skin. And you can use any fixing spray. You just don't want it to be a setting spray yet. So MAC Fix Plus will work. Scandinavia has a great fixing spray. This is really just pressing moisture into those products before we set with powder. And we always want to make sure that we're using powder after we're done with our creams. So I am actually going to grab a tiny bit of Fix Plus. I have a travel size. I need to get another full size of this. And because this is glycerin base, this is going to press those layers together into themselves. This is what we would call pre-set. So I'm going to then go in with some cream products to make sure that we are glowing. I'm going to start with the Ace Beauty Ultimate Sculpt Face Palette. This came in my BoxyCharm this month. And I'm going to grab that on the LYS Sculpt Bronzing Brush. I'm going to start with this shade up here. Because this is a cream, this is going to blend right into what we've already done. So I'm really just going to take that around my cheekbone. And then once I feel like it's in place, I'm going to switch to the side of the brush that has no product on it and just press that in. You'll see with this, I am stippling and pressing. I'm not blending. I'll do blending with powders, but with creams like this, I want to really press them into where I want them. And if I feel like I've added too much in one spot, I'll just stipple with the clean side of the brush to pick up some of that product. I'm going to then take a tiny bit of this darker shade, like a very small amount, and I'm going to press that just on this very outer C. And this is going to be where layering comes in. I'm going to grab the lightest shade, which is what I would use as like a bronzer shade, and I'm going to press that over the whole thing with this brush. And then I'm going to switch to my sponge. And again, using the flat side of this sponge, I'm going to press that in just to make sure all of those layers sandwich into each other. And we end up with a sculpted cheek. Now you can always build it up. I like to layer, so I'm going to go in with powder later on. So at this point, I'm going to switch to blush. This is also from my BoxyCharm. It's the Iconic London Multi-Use Lip and Cheek Palette. And I'm going to switch to, this is also an LYS brush. This is a foundation brush, but I'm going to use it for blush today. On the days where I have like a no makeup-y vibe going on, I like the blush to be less pinky. So I'm actually going to take this tangerine color up here and mix a tiny bit of the mauve in and press that up the cheek and pull it into the hairline. Again, back to that sponge, and just pressing everything out. At this point, we're going to start setting things down. So I'm going to grab the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder. This is in the shade Rose, which is a pinky tone, but this is a very illuminating powder. I'm going to take that on a powder brush, and right before I do that, I just want to make sure that I've pressed out any creases on the under eye, and I'm going to set that down. I'm concentrating this powder where I get oily, so that's going to be T-zone and under eye, and then swirling in whatever is left. I'm just going to press that over everything else to set it in. I really want most of that powder to be in those areas I mentioned. And then we're actually ready to switch into powders. So I'm going to grab a powder bronzer first. This is from Il Makiage with a fluffy bronzer brush. This one's from Rare Beauty. And I'm going to just gently sweep this over the cheeks. You'll notice it's here. I'm trying to keep a little bit of that gap because I want that little bit of brightness where the bronzer ends and the facial hair begins, because again, that's going to lift the cheek. And I don't need a lot. I can go in with a gentle hand and blend slowly. Because we've already put those powders on, those creams on. So it allows us to really just make sure that what we're adding is just what's necessary. So I did not do an unboxing for my BoxyCharms in February because my boxes got here so late. But I just, like 2 weeks ago, got the base BoxyCharm, and this is the Eloise Secret Garden Blush and Glow Palette. I'm going to take that on the Beauty For Real Blush brush, and I'm going to take this shade down here. I'm going to dip into the palette like 3 or 4 times, pat that on the back of my hand, just to make sure that I don't have a ton of product on the brush, and then I'm going to stamp that on the cheekbone, and then small circular motions to blend it in. This is where we're going to end up doing most of the building, is with the powder. I don't want to go overboard with the creams because powder could be more forgiving. Creams, once you blend them in, they're on your face. Whatever's left on the brush, just over the nose. And then I will take whatever's left and just kind of sweep the powder off of the under eye and into the cheek. And that's just going to have it all to look like it's melting together. Lastly, for like the boost of glow, I'm going to take 2 different products. First, I'm going to use, this is the Benefit Georgia blush. It is a peachy illuminating blush topper. I'm going to take that on the same brush, and I'm going to sweep that around the cheeks. Now, under normal circumstances, I would highlight the cheekbone, but that is like really glowy. And today, I'm not doing anything on the eyes. I really want to keep it to a minimum. So I'm going in with an illuminating blush instead. So we still get that glow to the cheek, but it's a little bit less like blinding. At this point, your base is done to do anything else. So if I was to do a really strong lip, I would probably add more blush because obviously when your lip is stronger and your eyes are bold, it's going to wash the skin out a little bit, so you'll feel like you're not wearing blush. But on a day where I have like a little bit of lip gloss and that's it, this is typically where I would stop. All right, I threw on a tiny bit of lip gloss. I threw bronzer in the crease, and that's really it. Brown liner, mascara, like literally this is the nothingest of eye looks and lip gloss. It's definitely super easy to get a nice glowy base. Now, if the lip was any darker or we went a little further on the eyes, I feel like this would need a little bit more blush, but it would be taking the same products we did and just layering some more up. There's no powderiness on my cheeks, so if I wanted to do more cream blush, I could. If I wanted to go in with more powder, I could. But in reality, like, even not on camera and close up, this looks stunning, and I feel like my pores feel airbrushed, my skin looks healthy and glowy and luminous and dewy and all of those buzzwords that, you know, we constantly want our skin to look. So if you have any other questions, let me know down below. I will once again link the products I used in the Shop My Shelf link in the bio so you could take a look, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!